So in scenario one, this is the low technique authentication scenario. This is just a bigger version of what we just saw, by the way. I used scenario one as the example. So here are the ratings. The ratings, the average ratings across 38 experts for date of birth, actually date of birth, photo, and signature, those are the highest rated characteristics, the highest rated attributes. Interestingly, the date of birth, signature, and photo, there's also the most consensus that those are the highest rated. Okay. Let's see. There's the government issue, there's not, no, this is relative because the cutoff here is at 90%. Okay, so government issued is slightly less than 90%. It's actually around 87% consensus, but it's not among the highest rated. So consensus doesn't necessarily match rating. These are two different things that I'm looking at here. But what consensus does actually is it gives you, again, I'm not trying to draw statistical conclusions here, but the fact that there's consensus among the experts does suggest some level of reliability of the results. Okay. That's what I did here. Yes.
So the connections that you draw over on the right come together as a tree.
They are, that's exactly what it is.
Does the structure of that tree give you any insight?
I thought about that a little bit. Within this tree, there's one cluster, date of birth and date of expiry is one sort of cluster that at the highest consensus.
I mean, in general. I mean,
in general?
Does the tree encode any sort of knowledge about this? Results? You know, if you look at, for instance, you can estimate distance within the, when two things are siblings in the tree, or they're more separated in the tree.
If they're siblings in the tree, then there's an equal level of consensus. If they're further separated, there's a big difference in the consensus level. To answer the question, did it give me any insights? I can't say that it did particularly. But that's a very interesting, actually, thought is to take a look at that also, because that might be, that might suggest something.
Trees are common kinds of knowledge structures. So
yes.
When you see a tree, you think, is there some knowledge in this tree?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but that's a really good idea.
What does R stand for?
Sorry, the R stands for, you notice that the average rating is very low. The consensus is high, that the average rating is very low. The R just has to do with the matrix. Actually, in order to get biometrics sorted here, mathematically you have to go through a process of reversing the rating. I'm trying to avoid getting into the details. When you look at the matrix, if we look at the matrix,
you just have to talk about the meaning.
Oh, the meaning, it just means that in the process of matching to see consensus, the ratings were reversed. So I used a mirror image of it. That's all. So it means that, for instance, biometrics were equally or among the highest ranked as photo, as the presence of a photo. But if I had tried to match a 5-to-5 rating and match a 4-to-4 rating, I'd have had no matches. However, what I had was wherever I had a 5 in photo, I had a 1 in biometric. So it just means that I had to reverse the ratings of the biometric for the purpose of the consensus matching here. All the experts agreed that it was equally unimportant as photo is important. Exactly.
So R basically means it's unimportant.
Yes, right. Although there's a lot of consensus that it's unimportant, right? Yeah, the R means unimportant, right?
Isn't that a little bit under the advanced biometrics we didn't see?
It was. That was one of the surprises for me, that people wouldn't be interested in having biometrics on a document.
You're saying if you had DNA things on your ID document?
Yes. However, this is the first scenario.
That doesn't count.
Yes, this is the first scenario, which is the low-tech scenario. So they sort of said, well, low-tech, advanced biometrics.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it. I see. You
know, low-tech environment.
It's a low-tech. It's on a paper driver's license. I see.
The second scenario, the high-tech, now high-tech but still weak authentication. You see that the cluster, the highest consensus cluster now is the issue of reliability, the date issued and the date of expiry. And here, again, both the highest rated and the highest consensus now seem to be more related to data quality than they are to physical characteristics of the person. Presumably no, because remember, high-tech assumes that you may have a digital document and you may have a virtual person. So the person may not even be there. So now they rely on data, not on physical features, which makes sense to me. Oh yes, sure.
Biometrics doesn't show in any of the code.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, which, as I say, was a surprise for me. Why?
You're talking to these people.
Yeah, I am. And I actually asked one security person about that. And his comment was, he said, biometrics is nice and all of that, but it's too easy to copy data, especially when you're in a virtual document environment. You can copy the data and nobody has any idea.
Does it have anything to do with, like, people don't like to use fingerprints for encryption as well, because it's not really cool.
They don't let you use fingerprints for encryption.
Biometrics for encryption as your key, because you can't revoke it. You can't issue a new key. You can't take away your fingerprints.
DNA is forever.
Yeah. But I mean, that was the comment I actually had from one security person. He said he doesn't like, although he's a high-tech guy, he said he doesn't like biometrics because it's too easy to copy the data.
That is what you said, because if someone has tampered my password, then I can change the password. If someone has exploited my DNA information, then it's gone.
That's right.
I can't do anything.
That's right. As I said, even here, I mentioned, I was really surprised that the tamper-proofing, the electronics, and the biometrics were all so low rated. But I guess it goes back to that comment from that one person who said, you can copy data. The third scenario is the low-tech, strong authentication now. And here there are two distinct clusters. Signature and photo, they kind of go together. Low-tech now means essentially that you have a physical document, a physical person. Strong authentication means a single issuer. You can trust that the document is tamper-proof and so on. So now, again, the dates, the date of issue and the date of expiry, those come up as being very important in this scenario, as in the signature and photo. Although all of these are part of one general cluster, which is above 85%. But there are two distinct clusters in here as far as the consensus is concerned. So what I've done is I've tried to overlay the rating, because I have these in order of rating. Try to overlay those with the consensus. That's what the color codes are. One interesting thing that came to me, and I put it here, although it applies across all of the different scenarios, the last item. Employment status data, the experts don't seem to care very much about that, which again surprised me because I'm in a bank environment. I would have thought that the employment status, which is such a big deal for credit, would matter. And apparently it matters for credit, but it turns out that from what I can see here, the experts clearly separate the identity checking process from the credit issuing process. In their minds, they're different processes, because I focus them very clearly on identity checking. So perhaps that's right. Yes.
The issue says
yes, the authentication there was generally, these were the lowest rated items. Of the set. And there's consensus. Relatively, there was like an 85% consensus that they are relatively low rated. Low in the sense of being lower than all of these other items that are rated above them. That's all.
Not much,
No, not that very much, but yes. No.
What's the definition of authentic?
Authentication. Yeah, okay. The authentication database, that just says that there is